Good question. So the American government does consider Houthis to be a terrorist group. They're listed in the State Department reports on terrorism as a terrorist group. The issue is whether or not the U.S. government will take the additional policy step of applying economic sanctions to the Houthis. And the problem with that is every humanitarian organization involved in famine relief in Yemen, and the Yemeni famine is probably the greatest ongoing humanitarian crisis of our age. Every humanitarian organization has said that applying the additional policy step of economic sanctions on the Yemeni government will make it impossible to provide famine relief in those areas the Houthis control. If you sanction the Houthis, basically, the only people in the areas under the rule of the Houthis who decide who gets to eat, who doesn't, is the Houthi government. It paradoxically strengthens their control over the areas they control. So it's viewed as counterproductive. So I think individual Houthi leaders will continue to have sanctions on them, and I think those sanctions will expand. And the United States will continue to consider the Houthi movement to be a terrorist movement in the State Department reports on terrorism. But I don't think the additional policy step of applying economic sanctions will go on. And I think the reason is because of the humanitarian crisis.
هناك من سيجادلك حول هذه النقطة تحديدا، لأنه سيخبرك أن هذه الهجمات تختلف عن الهجمات السابقة من حيث عدد الضحايا بين المدنيين.
What happened was the Trump administration for 4 years and 51 weeks, or for 3 years and 51 weeks, was well aware of this issue, and they knew that nobody in America, nobody in the Biden administration loves the Houthis. We know who the Houthis are. When Blinken announced the lifting of sanctions, he pointed out that they've killed civilian targets, that they've targeted infrastructure, that they've diverted aid, that they've skimmed off that they've committed war crimes. But the Trump administration for 3 years and 51 weeks said, we accept all of that, but that will make the humanitarian system, the international humanitarian organizations, it'll make it impossible for them to work on famine relief. When Trump was leaving office, I think he basically said, well, I'm going to do this as a problem for the next administration. I honestly think that, if he had been reelected, I don't think he would have designated the Houthis for the same reasons that the designation was lifted. And it creates this narrative, which, your question kind of hints at, that, well, they've always, people think, well, they've always been listed as terrorists, and then Biden took them off the list. So, why not put them back on? But that's not the case. They were on the economic sanction list for less than a month. Look, nobody loves the Houthis, okay? Basically, what we've decided, what the United States government has decided, is that the hostage takers, the Houthis, have so much power over the hostage that if we sanction the hostage takers, the hostage will suffer more. That's the decision.
اعذرني، لكن هناك أيضا هنا من سيجادلك حول هذه النقطة. سيخبرك أن بايدن انتهج سياسة القطيعة مع أغلب سياسات ترامب، وجاء عند نقطة الحوثيين واستمر على نفس النهج.
I've got to tell you, I teach at the National Defense University. One of the things we talk about is what is the strategy, what are the elements of the strategy. I have not seen anything that looks like an American strategy for Yemen from Barack Obama or from Donald Trump or from Joe Biden. What we have is a general system of principles. The difference we had was, Obama seemed to feel like, okay, coalition, you want to go and take limited military action to restore the rightful government of President Hadi. Fine, we'll support you, but at a distance and with active measures. Trump was kind of like, we don't want to get sucked into this, but we'll continue to support you, particularly with weapons. Even if there's problems in Congress, we will push weapon sales through. When Biden ran for office, by that time, his party started to view Saudi Arabia and the UAE as too close to Donald Trump, and viewed attacking Saudi Arabia and attacking UAE as a way to attack Donald Trump. So unfortunately, you saw even more shift in this idea that they were going to stop the sale of offensive weapons, which is, to me, a meaningless term. That was all about the domestic base. And, when Biden came into government, he started behaving a little bit differently. When he was running for president, he said Saudi Arabia needs to be a pariah state. was president, he's actually sending military aircraft, combat troops to Saudi Arabia, which had not been in Saudi Arabia from 2003 to 2019. They were sent by Trump after the Abqaiq attack, but he's continued that deployment. So again, there's more continuity than change, and personalities don't matter as much in the American system as they do in some other countries.